to worship Him, to adore Him. A wonderful time of worship we experienced. The worship doesn't end. The worship doesn't start with the song, the worship doesn't end with the song. That's why we do not have an exact time of worship, the service beginning, because we start off with a pre-worship. So we just go into the worship. We sang that I may worship with all of my heart, with all of my soul, with all of my mind, with everything that I am. All that is in me may praise God. That is our prayer. But sometimes we fail. It's not possible all the time. Not because we do not have the desire to do so, not because we are not children of God, but because, as I always say, we are human. Because we are human, because we are in this world, we are still lacking something. Until we get the transformed body, we still will have some or the other flaws in us that will keep holding on to us, tying us down to the earth, to the world. But then, with God's grace only, we conquer. Today I would like to meditate upon the life of Abraham, not the whole life of Abraham, but a portion of his life where he travels. Last week I just touched a point of Abraham's life, talking about his faith, moving from his native place, Ur, to Canaan. Now here, in chapter 20, chapter 12, we see God's calling for him, God's promise for him, his faith increasing. Based on the promise, he goes ahead, strengthened, and but we also see some problems coming in. So if we look at this chapter in chapter 12, from 1 to 9, we see the graph going up. From the verses 1 to 9, we'll see that he's soaring. He's taking off. The flight has taken off, going to the heights. But from 10th verse till 20, we find a nosedive of the aircraft, or spiraling down in Abraham's life. So I'd like to ponder on that, dwell on that portion where we see how we can have flaws, how we can fail in some instances, some situations. We may fail to cling on to the promises of God. Sometimes we are so strong in those promises, we proclaim those promises and pray it powerfully. And when we hear those prayers, we are filled with that strength, inner strength. We feel like jumping up and down just because we heard somebody praying with those powerful verses and words, proclaiming the promises and claiming those rights that we have as children. Here in Genesis 12:10 onwards, we see Abraham made some decision that brought trouble not only in his life, but even in our lives as well. The whole world as such today is suffering from some problems because of the decision that Abraham made. We find in the verse 10, we find, now there was a famine in the land, so Abraham went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the world. Now we see that Abraham was taken. If you have read the previous portion, if you have looked at the map and all, you would see that he had reached Canaan, he had reached Bethel. Over there, God tells him, this is the land I'm going to give you. Be here, flourish and all. But then we see that he starts traveling towards Negev, that's down a little southwest, southeast, I should say. He started coming down, and then things started moving in a different direction in his life. Egypt, he moves to Egypt because of a famine, and Egypt is shown as a type of world or a picture of world in biblical understanding. A place where Israelites were under bondage for 400 years. But we know that this world is a place from where we, even if we are delivered, we still have some liking towards it, something clinging on. Like we know about the wife of Lot. Yes, they listened to God's word. They ran out of that place, but still she wanted to turn back and look at what she had left. Same thing we see in the life of Israelites as well. When they were delivered out of that place, salvation has come. You were saved from your sinful life. You were saved by the blood of Christ. But then, sometime looking back, sometime missing those things, sometimes even boasting about what you were or what you had in the past. In Exodus 16:3, it says, "And the people of Israel said to them, would that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the meat pots and ate bread to the full." Yeah, they're not thinking about the hunters or the whips on their back. What are they thinking of? Thinking of the food that we had, the grand life we lived over there. If we go to the history of the Israelites in Egypt, we know what grand life they lived. Nobody needs to teach you about the grand life that they lived in Egypt, right? Of course, not talking about the time of Joseph. After that, the 400 years of slavery, what grandeur they had, we all know very well. But they are thinking about it, and that's sometimes the case with us as well. We left that world, we left that life, saved by the blood of Christ, but sometimes we sit back and think, oh, if I was not in faith, this would have happened. If I was not in faith, I would have had that. Yeah? If just because I became Christian, I'm not getting married. Just because I have to go to church, I had to lose that job. Yeah? Sometimes we start thinking about it and thinking about what good we would have had if we were not here. But we never think about the bad, the worst that we were going through at that time. So, all of us come into such situation. We take a nosedive in that situation. When our faith moves from God, we do have a nosedive. We have a spiraling down. Peter, when he took off his eyes from Christ, from the word of God, from the promise of God, he went down. So, we are no greater than all those saints and people mentioned in the Bible. No, not greater than Abraham or Peter and all. We all may have, if not yet, soon enough, we will have such situation in our life. If you can boast about not getting into a situation till now where you had a nosedive in your faith, don't worry, it's coming. So, why this plunge happened, or why this nosedive took place, why this spiraling down took place in the first place? What was the cause of it? Threatening circumstances. Yeah? First 10th verse we saw, now there was a famine in the land. Wherever you are placed, God said, this is your place. But still, a lot of problems. God said, when the first day you stood up to give testimony, you said, a wonderful office, a wonderful job, a great salary, a good position. But after some time, I don't think this is the place. Why? Because the colleagues are are talking ill about me. The manager is always shouting at me, and they always give me so much of work. I'm not able to go back home on time. So many things. Famine has come into your life. And so what happens? This is not the place. I think I should move. It's better that I move. We forget about the days when we stood up and jumped up and down saying, best job. God answered my prayer. All the testimony? Gone. When famine came, when the threat came in the life, what happened? Solution? Not to God. Didn't go to God for solution. God, famine, what should I do? What did he do? Solution. I will go down to Egypt. I will take the plunge. I will jump from here. I will go down to Egypt, not up to Egypt. The verse clearly says, go down to Egypt. So go down to the world. As I said, Egypt is a type of world. So go down from the plane, the higher plane that God had placed you, saying, this is your place. This is where what I have given to you as inheritance. From there, stepping down as your own decision. And what it meant. That decision that he made, what it meant. Canaan, as I said, is God's promise. As I said earlier, promised job, promised position, promised family, promised husband, promised wife, promised everything. No, I don't think we are compatible. I don't think it's going well. We take decisions. When things start moving against us, give up. Let it be. It's not meant for me. That's what he did. But do you understand one thing? No place can be better than the one where God has placed you. No other place can be better than the place that God chose and made you sit. See, look at Joseph, sent to Egypt by God. Okay? Put into the jail. If he was not in the jail, would he have risen to that level? I don't think so. He would have just roamed around cleaning houses and all. But because he was in the jail, God sent two people over there, their dream to be interpreted, and things to take a different turn altogether. The place God has kept you is important, and no other place is better than that. And when famine comes in our life, please do not think it is for destruction. The famine that came in Canaan was not for destruction of Abraham. Why would Abraham have to think even that, okay, I might die, when God had already made promises to him? God had made promises to him. So he could have been sure of one thing, that when God said that I'm going to bless you, you're going to fill the earth and all, definitely he had at least till my child is born, I'm not going to die. That assurance was there. If the child was born the next day, then the next day he might die. But that was not possible, of course. Right? So still he had around 1 year time. So he could have clung on to the promise, but what did he do? He made a decision on his own. He thought, my goodness, I'm going to die. Forgotten about the promise of God. It's just like you go to the examination hall, look at the question paper and run from there. Oh my goodness, the teachers, the question paper setter has set a paper so difficult. I'm going to fail. Let me run. Is there any chance of passing that examination? If you run from the examination hall without writing even your name, you think there is any chance at all? No. You have to sit in that examination. You have to write to be able to pass. Whether with good marks or bad marks, that's the second thing. Right? But to pass, you need to face that examination right in. He should have actually chosen that uncertain, vague, foggy future that he was seeing in Canaan, because it was a promised land. Instead of thinking of what was very visible, that a flourishing country is over there called Egypt, let me go over there. Based on his sight. We know very well what God told Samuel. when he went according to the sight to choose the king. Not according to the sight. I have chosen something else. I have something else in my mind. My yardstick is different. But our yardsticks are based on our eyesight. So to avoid the eyesight, the only thing is that we close our eyes and depend on God. There's no other way. Because when we open our eyes, we see everything barren. We see famine around, which would definitely make us run for our life. And that's what he did. And what did it lead him to? We say, from fire to frying pan. That was the condition. He ran from the fire and fell into the frying pan. And what was the frying pan? The escape route that he found. What did it say in 11, 12, 13? What do we see over here? It says, when he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarai, his wife, I know that you are a woman beautiful in appearance. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. Say you are my sister, that it may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared for your sake. Now what is that? Running away from fire, falling into the frying pan. Now from there he ran because he thought he will die. Now what is over here? What is the question that is? What's the question that he's experienced? The question in front of him is, again, death. I may die because of you. Over there, because of famine. Over here, because of you. Both places, death. Again, the brain started working. Instead of trusting in God, again the brain started working. So one mistake we make, we walk on that wrong route. Again, we make another mistake. We follow another wrong route. That is what happens. What did it make him do? A lie. Not a big lie, in fact. It's a white lie, you can say. In Hindi, they say, safed jhoot. Yeah? So it's not a dark lie, but a very dull, bright kind of a light. Okay? In Genesis 20:12, he says, besides, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, though not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. So did he lie actually? He didn't lie. When he says that she's my sister, he didn't lie. That's just a safed jhoot. That's just a white lie, not the black, dark lie. Right? That's what he did. I remember when I said this white lie, I remember an illustration, an example my dad used to do, to say. He used to say that a man went to a wealthy gentleman, a poor man went to a wealthy gentleman saying, please give me some money, I'm in dire need of money. Right now I need to give. And this gentleman, he had this walking stick, and he said, you know what, I don't have any money here. His pocket was full of money. He had a money bag hanging, but he said, you know what, I don't have any money here. Did he lie? You think he lied? What did he say? I don't have any money here where I'm hitting with my walking stick. Over there, no money, not a single rupee is here. That's what he said. He didn't say, I don't have money in my bag. I didn't say I don't have money in my pocket. He just said, I don't have any money here. That is what he's doing over here. A white lie. A lie saying that, please say that you are my sister. From running away from promise of God, moving towards lying, making his wife lie. And what did it cause? In 14, 15, 16, we read, when Abraham entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. So his calculations were good. What he said earlier, that they will see that you are beautiful, exactly like that things happened. The Egyptians saw that she was beautiful. And when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And for her sake, he dealt well with Abraham. And he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels, and whatnot. But what did it actually cause? First thing, distress. You think it was a pleasure to be taken away from her husband by a king? Any of us feel so? That Sarai might have felt good. Okay, thank God I got rid of this. She might have gone through real distress, a mental trauma. There might have been a psychological warfare going in her mind. What to do? Should I obey my husband? And if I obey my husband, this is what is going to happen to me. Think about the distress that she was going through because of the decision taken when the things went wrong. When things went against your planning, the decision you took to run away from the promise of God, to run away from where God had placed you. Somebody else is in distress. Your loved ones are in distress. But yes, if we look at social upheaval, social growth, we see that he did really grow. Yeah? He rose socially in the world, Egypt. In the world he rose. The wrong decisions that he took, the lies that he said, the jump that he made in the job from where God had placed, he jumped up from there to some other place that he thought is good. From the relationship that God had given him, he left and moved into a different relationship based on his knowledge, his calculations. Probably that would sometime lead to an upheaval in your social level. We see that in 16th verse, saying that, and for her sake he dealt well with Abraham. He had sheep, oxen, property, everything that you can think of in those days to make somebody look rich, prosperous, everything he had. They were measured on the basis of all these things that they hold in their possession, whether a person is a poor man or a rich guy. This is what he got. So socially looking at it, he grew. So sometimes we may think, see, I jumped from that job, I ended up in this job. See, look at it. Within 3 months I got first promotion, 6 months another promotion, my salary got doubled. So see, I made the right choice at that time. God gave me the wisdom to make the right choice at that time. That sometimes we say that. Did we ask God before we made the right choice? But after we made the choice, when things we felt went well, see, God has blessed me. But sometimes it's not actually blessing. Sometimes they're curse hidden inside those blessings that we see. And the worst thing over here, but the Lord afflicted, in verse 17 it says, but the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abraham's wife. Such a good thing, right? We are bringing afflictions in the life of others. We are bringing distress in the life of people who love us and whom we love, and we are also bringing afflictions into the lives of the people around us. See the contrast that we see between verse 16 and 17. In 16 we see that Abraham is flourishing, blessed, socially growing. And on the other hand, in 17 we see that the place where he was in, the king over there, Pharaoh's family was cursed rather than being blessed by Abraham's presence. The tragedy is that our wrong decisions, the decisions that we make, the mistakes that we make, are not just affecting us. It pulls down many others along with us. Our lack of faith is not just for us. Don't think that, okay, I made a mistake, fine, let it be. Your mistake has caused somebody grave danger. You have put many people into danger. Okay, I just, while I was drawing, the pencil nib broke, so my line went a little to the side. By minute fraction of a degree, it just got changed. That's all. What big deal? But thousands of people traveling in that train perished because On that line, on the basis of that line, people laid down the rails that you drew on the paper. That was the basis on which people made that railway track. And lives were lost because of that small decision. Don't say, I made a mistake, okay, fine, I'm sorry, done, finished. No. Every mistake we make is making a big impact on the others' lives as well. Every decision that we make, good or bad, leaves an impact in the lives of other people as well. So it's not just to us, not just left to us, but others are involved in this. And another thing that we see is, in Genesis 12, 1-3, we saw, as I said, there was an upheaval, there was a uphill road that was taking him, he was flying away up into the faith world. He says, now the Lord said to Abraham, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Is that what happened? You think that is what happened? No. That's not what happened. There's nothing worse than being called to be a blessing and becoming a curse and a stumbling block for others. You're called to become blessings for others. You're called to become source of light to others. You're called to become salt and light of the earth. But what are we becoming? Stumbling blocks? Cause of lack of faith? That's what we are becoming? Mahatma Gandhi said that I would have loved to become a Christian, but I don't want to become Christian because of Christians. When he was asked that you quote Jesus every time, you love the teachings of Jesus, then why don't you follow him? He said, it's because of Christians that I don't. There's a story behind it, what he experienced and all. You can just go Google up, you will find out what made him feel so bad about Christians. Because he was barred from a church. You'll come to know about it later when you Google it. What did all this culminate in? It culminated in an anticlimax. Anticlimax is a figure of speech used in English, in language, and the definition is a disappointing end to an exciting or impressive series of events. So when we look at chapter 12, there's a growth. Things are happening very nice, interesting way. Faith is building up, everything going up, and then there's a plunge. There's a spiraling down. There's a cliff from where he's falling. And look at what happens at the end of this chapter. So Pharaoh called him, 18, 19, 20. So Pharaoh called Abraham and said, what is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she was my sister so that I took her for my wife? Now then, here's your wife. Take her and go. And Pharaoh gave men orders concerning him. They sent him away with his wife and all that he had. Can there be a worse end to this journey? This journey that he took as a decision he made from the land that he was promised by God, telling, this is where I will be for you, this is where I want you to be. From there he decided to move away, move downwards, and there, because of that decision, the anticlimax is financially much stronger. Yes, when he left from there, he was very much stronger compared to what he was when he came. But do you know what he lost? He lost the testimony. He lost a testimony. For Christians, testimony should matter more than money. For believers, testimony should have more weight than money. Losing testimony is something that it's equivalent to dying. It's death, your spiritual death taking place. So we should be more concerned about the testimony that we hold among the people around us. And interestingly, he was kicked out by the world itself. So he's of no use to God and he's no use to the world as well. That's the kind of value he is worth now. at the end of this chapter. He's come to a situation where he has no testimony left in that world which was supposed to be blessed by him. Where people should be standing up and saying, thank you for being with us. Thank you that you are with us. Thank you for your company. Thank you for working with us. Thank you for living with us. Your presence has made a change, made a difference in my life. I am blessed because of you. Those were the words that I should have been there. But what is the word that has come? Get out of here. Get lost. I don't want to see your face again. Not because he stood for God. Please don't misunderstand. When Jesus said, you will be kicked, you will be pushed out of the world, you will be pushed out by the world, for my sake is different from this. Okay, so don't confuse those two things with each other. Suffering for Christ is different. This is suffering because of your decisions, your mistakes. Suffering because you did not listen to God. You did not trust in God. You did not cling on to the promises of God. Instead, you stood on your calculations. You depended on your calculations. You depended on your wisdom instead of trusting in God. Instead of turning to God, praying, God, what should I do? He should have just sat there and waited out. Though there was famine, he should have waited out. We know our God is a God who sends forth ravens to feed. Yeah? He can send ravens to feed us, even in famine. So that's the kind of God we serve. But at times we don't remember those things. We forget about those things that should actually encourage us. As last week I said, go back to the promises that you've already know that you can cling on to. Don't just open, as I said, and hoping that you would get some good verse. Please don't do that. But go back to the verses. Go back to the words. Go back to the promises that God has given you in your life. Trusting in God that He is with us. So do we end up in a hopeless situation? I know this chapter ends up in a hopeless situation. But do we have to end up in a hopeless situation? In hopelessness? No. We don't have to end up in hopelessness as the chapter ends over there. Because going forward, we'll find that he is growing again. He goes back and grows in faith and blessings and become a blessing later on for many. Yeah? Thanks to God, Romans 4:5 says, he justifies the ungodly. So it's not that we will not make any mistakes. We will have some ungodly moments. We will have sins in our lives. We will have mistakes in our lives. But God says he justifies the ungodly. In 2 Corinthians 5, 18 and 19, especially in verse 19, it says, reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses against them. Can you see that? Reconciling, just below 19 it says, reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses. That's another promise that we can cling on to even after making mistakes in our life. That doesn't mean that you go on and keep making mistakes because I have a promise. You know what? Please don't make mistakes. Pastor says, please don't do this. Don't worry, Pastor. Even if I make a mistake, I have a promise. We can find verse for anything that we do. Bible is full of verses to support everything that you want to do. Out of context, if you take a verse, you can definitely support any foolishness that you do. But that doesn't mean that you have to do. When God says he will cleanse your sins, even if they are red like blood, doesn't mean that you every time you go to God, take some paint, red color paint, and pour it on your head, because God said, I will clean it. That's not what God means. So please don't take things out of context. Please don't read verses out of context and try to use it for your own benefit, to justify yourselves. That's what we do many a times. But we have to trust in God that even after making decisions, not that we should, but even after making wrong decisions, God justifies us. He doesn't count our trespasses because he's a merciful God. He's a loving God. He gave up his only begotten Son just because of love. Just because of love, that is what he did. So how much more he can do? And Jesus says in Luke 22:32, he says, he prays for us. You know what does he say? But I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail. You know about whom he is talking? He's talking about Peter. He tells Peter that you are going to deny. You're going to deny me. You are going to do that. If so far you have not made any mistake, if so far you have not fallen away from the promise, if so far you have not taken away the words out of context, if so far you have not experienced the situation of famine in your life, you are going to face that. You are going to make mistake. You are going to fall. You are going to be attacked by situations that will frighten you. And you may fall, but I will pray that your faith may not fail. When you have turned again. See the word when? Do you think it's if? Can it be replaced with if? No. When. And when means it is going to happen. You will fall, but when you have turned again, what's your duty? I made a mistake. I fell. I got up. I turned again to God. As per his promise, God forgot all my trespasses. He forgave me. He took me into his fold again. Now it is my duty to it's my duty to strengthen others. It's important that we may not remain in the fall, but rise up, turn again. Once risen, strengthening others. May God bless us with these words.